I'd like to give all glory and praise and honor unto the Most High. And after this video, I'm going to take a little break. I don't know how long, until I will put on the next video. But, if the Most High put it on my spirit to put one out, I'm gonna definitely put out a video, man. But we're gonna get into it, man. And what we're gonna be talking about today is people may look at my videos and say, oh man, this guy don't sound too smart. You know what I mean? Oh, this guy sounds foolish. And they may look at other tardy individuals' videos and they may laugh. They may think everything is funny. A lot of you government agents, that's watching my videos. You may sit back and laugh, man. You may think that you're wiser than the servants of the Lord, man. But today what we're gonna show you, that your wisdom don't ever supersede the servants of the Lord, man. And we're gonna show you a few examples. So let's get into it. All right, 1 Corinthians chapter 1, 25 through 28. Because the foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than men. For you see your calling, brethren, how that not many wise men after the flesh, not many mighty, not many noble, are called. Yeah, we'll stop right there. Not many mighty, not many noble are called, man. This is talking about, your celebrities, man. People with power. Your Joe Osteens, your TD Jakes, man. Those guys are not called, to do this work, man. In truth, in full truth, They're not called, man. Be a Bill Gates, man. They're not called to this work like that, man. But God had chosen the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. And God had chosen the weak things of the world to confound the things which are mighty. And the base things of the world and things which are despised, God had chosen, yea, and things which are not, to bring north things that are, man. Yeah, the base things out of the world. The base things out of the world that's not wicked, man. You know what I mean? The Most High chosen those things to bring glory unto Him, man. You know what I mean? The people that you never think. That's who the Lord chooses to do His will, man, on this earth. We're gonna get into some examples of that. First, we're gonna get into the scripture real quick. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 7. The Lord did not set His love upon you, nor choose you, because ye were more in number than any people, for ye were the fewest of all people, man. So you see, the Most High chooses, the Israelites because they were the fewest of all people, man. And we're gonna see a trend with that as we get into more details, man. You know what I mean? It's not about being the biggest, man. Right now what we're gonna look at is we're gonna look at King Saul. And we're gonna look at when Samuel came to anoint King Saul, which was the first king of Israel. And we're gonna see the things that he said. We're gonna see the characteristics of Saul. Because we all know that. If you read the Bible, Saul wasn't always wicked. He was a virtuous man in the beginning. He was righteous. But his hatred and his envy against David, that's what really turned him, in his disobedience to God. So we're gonna get into it, man. When Samuel came to anoint him, what he said. 1 Samuel chapter 9:21. And Saul answered and said, am not I a Benjamite, of the smallest of the tribes of Israel, and my family the least of all the families of tribe of Benjamin? Wherefore then speakest thou to me? So he was saying that to Samuel. Look, man, he came from one of the least tribes, man. His family was one of the least tribe of Benjamin, one of the smallest tribes out of Israel, man. And the Lord chose him out of that tribe. The least family. He came from humble beginnings. He was poor. To reign over, to be the first king. So you see, the Most High does things a certain way that we might not understand. you know, or others might not understand. You know, the least tribe. You know, and let's get into it more. We're going to get into the writings of Josephus. So right here, this was when Saul was anointed. You know, he was anointed by Samuel, and you know, this is what it says, you know, about him when after he was anointed to be king over Israel. It says, this man did not only show nothing of that nature when he was appointed to be the Lord of so many and so great tribes, but crept away and concealed himself out of the sight of those he was to reign over, and made them seek him, and that with a good deal of trouble. So when the people were at a loss and solicitous, because Saul disappeared, the prophet besought God to show where the young man was and to produce him before them. So you see, Saul ran away, man. When he was reigning king, he was scared, man. He was shy, you know. You know, he didn't have any confidence, you know. But that's who the Most High chose, you know. But you know, as we know, I mean, Saul was a mighty warrior, man. You know, he was mighty. You know, when Josephus talks about, you know what I mean, the last acts of Saul, I already did a video on that, how, you know what I mean, valiantly he fought, man. I mean, knowing that he was already gonna die going into the battle. You know what I mean? You know, it was amazing to read, man. So you see, he came from the least tribe and he was chosen, man. You know, that's how the Most High works, man. Let's keep going. So this is Judges chapter 6, 14 through 15. And the Lord looked upon him and said, go in this thy might, and thou shalt save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have I not sent thee? And he said unto him, O my Lord, wherewith shall I save Israel? Behold, my family is poor in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house. You see that? Gideon also came from a poor family, and he was the least in his father's house. You know what I mean? You know, so you see, it's something about the Most High. He doesn't choose those that are well qualified, man. I mean, he chooses those with they have to have a right heart, man. I mean, the right spirit within them. I mean, the Most High can see it. You know, the least in his father's house. He came from poor. Same thing with Saul. Saul was the from the least tribe. I mean, his family was one of the poorest, man. Let's keep going. I mean, this was Gideon, man. All right, we're gonna look at King David now. You know, when the prophet Samuel came to anoint him as king after Saul messed up. So we're gonna look at that. I mean, see the similarities. And when he saw his eldest son to be a tall and handsome man, he guessed by his comeliness that he was the person who was to be their future king. But he was mistaken in judging about God's providence. For when Samuel inquired of God whether he should anoint this youth whom he had so admired and esteemed worthy of kingdom, God said, men do not see as God seeth. Thou indeed hast respect to the fine appearance of this youth, and thence esteemeth him worthy of the kingdom, while I propose the kingdom as a reward, not of the beauty of bodies, but of the virtue of souls. And I inquire after one that is perfectly comely in that respect. I mean, one who is beautiful in piety and righteousness, and fortitude and obedience, for in them consists the comeliness of the soul. When God had said this, Samuel bade Jesse to show him all his sons. So he made 5 others of his sons to come to him, all of whom Eliab was the eldest, Adimadab the second, Shemaiah the third, Nathaniel the fourth, Rael the fifth, and Asam the sixth. And when the prophet saw that these were nowhere inferior to the eldest in their countenance, he inquired of God which of them it was whom he should choose for their king. And when God said, it is none of them, he asked Jesse whether he had not some other sons beside these. And when he said that he had one more named David, but that he was a shepherd and took care of the flock, Samuel bade them call him immediately, for that till he was come, they could not possibly sit down to feast. So you see, you know, all of David's brothers, you know, they looked a part of the, you know, of getting that the kingdom, and they looked a part of a king. You know, but the Most High didn't choose any of them. You know, He chose David, that was a shepherd. You know what I mean, tending to the sheep in the back. You know, and you know, for David brothers, I mean, they didn't take him serious either, man. You know, but you see, you know, that's who the Lord chose, man. Somebody that, you know, was not even respected by his brothers, by his peers. You know what I mean? You know, somebody fit for the kingdom. You know, let's keep going. We're gonna take a look at Moses now. You know, when the Most High appeared to him in that burning bush. I mean, in the writings of Josephus, that's what I'm reading out of, and see what he said. I mean, let's keep going. But Moses was astonished at what he saw, and much more at what he heard. And he said, I think it would be an instance of too great madness, O Lord, for one of that regard I bear to thee, to distrust thy power, since I myself adore it, and know that it has been made manifest to my progenitors, but I am still in doubt how I, who am a private man and one of no abilities, should either persuade my countrymen to leave the country they now inhabit, and to follow me into land whither I lead them. You know, so you see what Moses said. He said, "Yeah, I'm a private man. I mean, I'm one of no abilities. You know, and you know, and that's who the Most High chose, man. You know, it was something within Moses that he seen. You know, and Moses was living a life, man. Moses was in the Pharaoh's house. He was living in the Pharaoh's palace or whatnot. You know, eating grapes, finest education. You know what I mean? You know, he didn't have to fight for these, you know, for the Israelites, man. But when he seen that Israelite getting beat up by the Egyptian, and Moses smote him, he killed him. You know, Moses didn't have to do that, man. But that just goes to show you, man. You know, it was something in him. He still had love for his brethren, his brothers. You know, that moved him when he see his fellow brothers getting, you know, abused like that. And you know, he didn't forget where he came from. You know, he was at the highest point, you know, over all his peers, man. In the palace, man. You know, had leadership positions. You know, he didn't have to do that, man. You know, and he gave that up. You know what I mean? And had to flee after that. You know, and you kind of see a parallel in that story with Christ. And I mean, leaving his throne and coming down. I mean, Moses leaving that throne and coming down to a low state. You know, to be that servant, man. You know. So that's amazing, man. Numbers 12:3. Now the man Moses was very meek above all men which are upon the face of the earth. Very meek, man. You see, quiet, submissive, easily imposed on. I mean, but you know, Moses was a warrior at heart. You know, so you know, this is who the Most High chooses, man. He doesn't choose people that you think he's gonna choose, man. You know. Let's keep going. Acts chapter 4:13. It says, and when they saw the boldness of Peter and John, and perceived that they were unlearned and ignorant men, they marveled, and they took knowledge of them that they had been with Yeshua, man. So you see, you know, the Pharisees, you know, they looked at Peter and John, and they said, look, man, these are ignorant and unlearned men. These guys don't have a high education, you know. But you see the people, I mean, the way they were speaking, I mean, they were speaking with much wisdom, man. You know, the people were hearkening on to them, and they didn't like that. You know, these were like, you know, fishermen. You know what I mean, people of a low estate. You know what I mean. And that's who the Lord chose, man. You know. You know, he wasn't dealing with the high and mighty, you know, like that, man. You know, and we see why. We see examples of why. You know, with men, with examples like Nick Cannon, you know, with that incident, and other men like that other football player, Deshaun Jackson. You know, not many mighty, not many noble are called for this, man. You know. You know what I mean? And lastly, we're gonna look at the Messiah. Of course, everybody knows this verse, Isaiah 55:3. He's despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And we hear that face from him. He was despised and we esteemed him not. I mean, Yeshua HaMashiach, man. I mean, he was despised, man. You know, he was considered base. The people didn't accept him. You know, the people didn't accept him, man. You know, that's because I mean, these men were not of this world, man. They were from, hey, they're not of this world. They came to do their job and then leave, man. You know, you gotta remember the wisdom of this world is foolishness with the Most High. Even a man like Solomon that had all that wisdom that the Most High gave him, you know, he still drifted away. You know, one of the wisest men on the earth. He still drifted. So see, the Most High is not impressed with that. You know what I mean? Because these scriptures is the real education, man. You know, the Most High wasn't impressed with Solomon. I mean, with all that wisdom he had, he was still a fool in the eyes of the Most High. You know, he still fell. He still fell short. You know, not many mighty are called, man. So yeah, man. You know. I'm just end it on this video. Yeah, I'd like to give all praise and honor and glory unto the Most High. You know, hopefully this was edifying, man. You know, all praises, man. Till next time.